Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right with Carlson, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Derek. Fighting scores! On the face-off! Up in Zeminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They score! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now, with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Reykjanes Peninsula, Iceland.
Iceland, thank you for clarifying. Yes, the big volcano behind you. Hey, welcome to the Calder Farmstead. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling episode 22. So this is for Tuesday, March 22nd. Whoa. Episode 22 on March 22nd. I'm catching the two vibes here. Anyway, March 22nd, 2021. God, if it was 2022, that would have been marvelous. But anyway, I digress. If you guys were hoping for a podcast featuring crop rotation strategies, I regret to inform you that we are not going to be very much help because this is an American Hockey League podcast, and my name is CC Hockley.
And I'm Sean O'Brien.
And as always, we thank you for tuning in with us.
And if you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to recap some of the matchups from the past weekend for you. We both watch a bunch of AHL games, are going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you might want to head over to our podcast feed or our YouTube channel, wherever you're checking us out from. Scroll all the way to the bottom and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out so you'll be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy. It's not that technical. It's only 20 minutes. And let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes today trying to find a Krispy Kreme location near you. So why not spend a little time with us talking hockey?
And once again, Sean plucking his little last part of the rant there right from my browser history. Damn you, Sean. Damn you. Well, hey, AHL hockey this weekend. Oh, my goodness. It was without question the wildest weekend in the AHL so far this season. So to give a very brief overview, the Baby Pens literally traded opponents on the schedule. Three different teams down by 3 goals came back to actually win their games. 3 games went to overtime on Sunday alone. Belleville doubled the number of wins it had on the season with a weekend sweep of the Toronto Marlies. Cody Franzen scored a goal from the neutral zone. Wilkes-Barre Scranton and Lehigh Valley had a 7-goal second period. Saturday's Laval Stockton game was all of the entertainment value I had hoped for, and then some. We will get to that with Paige Stewart later on in the show. And last but not least, Connor McMichael at the buzzer, nothing but net, scored an actual buzzer beater to win a game for Hershey. Now, I understand that most people don't watch AHL games outside of their market, but for us, 2 guys that cover the whole league, I tell you, this weekend was magnifico. Sean, where do you want to start with the madness? Oh, so much macho madness. Yeah.
I say we go Hershey bingo first, but yeah, this weekend was absolutely insane. Like if you are a fan of one of the teams in those games that we just, overviewed there, and you thought that this was maybe, just kind of a meh, whatever, check your pulse. You may in fact be dead.
Absolutely. You might have to go stand as close to a volcano as Sean is right now.
Yeah.
But let's get started, man. Let's talk Hershey bingo. So Friday, 7 p.m., it was at bingo. Sunday, 4 p.m. was at Hershey. I picked a Hershey sweep. Sean picked Hershey on Friday, bingo on Sunday. The model had Hershey at over 70% for both of these games. So obviously, like you said, Sean, a bit of a love affair with the Bears. The results, bingo, rally from 4-1 down. This was one of the 3 goals deficits that we talked about to come back to win. Bingo ends up winning 6-5 after being down 4-1. Talk about madness. Yeah. And then Hershey coming back, like we mentioned, that overtime buzzer beater. Yeah, like I said from above, the above intro, 3-2, they win it in overtime. So, Sean, your picks were a little mixed up there. You should have picked Bingo first and Hershey second.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, I kind of felt the split coming, but let's get into it a little bit more here.
Yes, for sure. So Hershey scored not just one power play goal, but by God, they scored 2. Wow. I tell you, they worked on it during practice. They changed up some personnel, and now everything is peachy keen and all solved. Right, Shawnee?
Not quite, not really. That's not how I would describe it at all. I mean, yeah, they scored 2 power play goals, but this is a process versus results thing. And I saw a lot of the same old tactics of yesteryear. You know, I don't imagine they're ever going to go away from that 3 forward, 2 defensemen on the second power play unit, even though they absolutely should. But whatever. Cameron Schilling just staring down goalies and ripping pucks from 60 feet away. Like, that's really just, it's not effective use of the power play. Like, just standing literally at the furthest point away in the neutral zone, no traffic, nothing, just whites of the eyes, staring them down and ripping pucks. Like, those aren't going to go in. Paul Ledoux scored on a low percentage shot, and we've talked at length about how to improve chances of getting a puck that you shoot to go in. I mean, you can get the goalie moving side to side with passes across Royal Road. You can use deception. Look off, like I'm going to pass, and then, rip it. So the goalie can't read your eyes, or the reverse. Look like you're going to shoot, then pass it. You can also, do the old-fashioned way, make it hard for the goalie to see, put layered screens, traffic in front, stuff like that. But that's not what Paul Ledoux did. He just basically walks right in from outside the house, stares him down, and managed to beat him. Like, yes, it went in, but that's a low percentage shot. Cody Clark's goal was pretty much the same thing. Schilling did the exact same thing that Paul Ledoux did. He got a lucky bounce off of Scarabosa that went right to the stick of Clark for a wide open net. Like, this is bad process with good results, which is probably the worst outcome because it reinforces the idea that, oh, well, it went in, so what we did was right? No, hockey has weird luck and stuff like that. I did, however, see at least some indications of improvement. Scarabosa was looking to make passes to the bumper or across Royal Road. The problem is that he was on the right half wall, and the guy he was trying to hit cross ice Royal Road passes with is Joe Snively, who was on the left wall. And he is left-handed, so no one-timers for you. But that's something. At least they're making the effort to make those passes. Sunday's unit with Pilon, Scarbosa, and McMichael had a couple of good sequences with Michael on the half wall hitting Pilon in the bumper spot, who put it across to Scarbosa for a high-danger shot. But still, by and large, I saw the same bad power play tactics that they've been using for years now. And I mean, if they wanted to see what a good use of 1-3-1 power play structure looks like, all they had to do was watch Binghamton. Binghamton made passes across Royal Road. They worked to get pucks into the slot. They used a variation of the Oshie play with a weird twist on it at the end, where instead of shooting from the bumper, he kicks it out behind him to a wide open dude who buried a goal on one of Binghamton's power play attempts. And I also want to point out, like, the penalty kill for the Bears, normally pretty decent, but man, were they over pursuing on the puck side really, really hard. Like, if the puck was over on the half wall, they've managed to pull a lot of the Bears PK guys over to that side, and that left open a lot of guys on the opposite side, the weak side of the ice. And that's how you saw a lot of good power play chances for Bingo happen, because Hershey basically just abandoned one side of the ice during the power play a bunch. And that's super fixable. And it will probably be fixed with some video sessions this upcoming week for Hershey. But those were some rough looks.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, Binghamton, their power play, it's very, dare I say, with how much they're kind of struggling in other realms of their team work and otherwise, 6th in the league currently. They've got a 24.5 conversion rate, 24.5% rather. 12 power play goals on 49 chances. Hershey not in the bottom anymore, not with those 2 power play goals, but 26th out of 28. Guess who claimed the last place spot again?
Colorado.
The Colorado Eagles. Yep, of course. Yep.
When when you take the weekend off and then the other team that was worst scores,
it's kind of a given. I know it was a it was a bit of a lob pass for sure in regards to that. But hey, let's talk about Binghamton coach Mark Dennehy. In recent media availability, he mentioned the focus on elements of the transition game. We've also been saying it for basically the entire season. So how did the Devils transition game look this weekend, Sean?
So in the preview, we talked about which would get fixed first, the Bears power play or the bingo transition. And I picked bingo transition because the Bears have been doing the same stuff for years.
Right.
But that's a dead horse that we're going to move away from for a little bit. But this was definitely not a solve. Like I wouldn't, use like the big stamp to be like bingo transition solve. But if this isn't fixed, it is a step forward in the right direction because they had big improvements in cleanly retrieving pucks on dump-ins, big improvements in getting D-zone turnovers and turning that into actual zone exits, getting those into zone entries, so on and so forth. They did a much better job of getting Nolan Foote involved, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But case in point for Bingo's transition problems, certainly seeming to be trending in the right direction. They scored their second goal on Friday. They got a turnover from Riat in the on a rush chance. Carrick puts it to Foote right away. Foote gets the controlled zone exit. Gets it past to Boquist in the neutral zone. Boquist kind of struggles with the reception, but doesn't resort to just dumping it in and, punting and then going for a change. He finds a handle on it, gets a pass to Zetterlund for the controlled zone entry. That transition right there, 7 seconds after that zone entry Zetterlund got, they scored. So transition, that movement there, a huge factor in the bingo comeback, and it looked a lot better. They also scored another rush goal on Sunday. And I think having Connor Carrick back helped them a lot. Like Carrick is a steadying presence for that blue line and in my mind, he's an NHL caliber defenseman, but for some reason is down here in bingo. He's struggled a little bit recently in New Jersey, but then again, find me a guy in the last month. I don't think you can find me a guy in New Jersey who hasn't at least been not executing to the best of their ability. Damon Severson's been great for them, but he's even struggled recently. But anyway, Connor Carrick, definitely a big steadying presence, it seemed like. And he also too, he has NHL caliber puck skills. So his ability to quickly get a handle on pucks that are rimmed around or dump ins or turning that turnover into offense going the other way quickly, that definitely helped for them a lot. They still have work to do though. Specifically, I thought Kevin Balls, he's taking steps forward and he is very likely going to be a future NHLer for somebody. I don't know if it's necessarily New Jersey, but they still had a few moments in his D zone where he's mishandling pucks. He missed a pass to Carrick in the O zone by like 15 feet. And his overall game, it's improving, but they're small steps. But I also will say, too, their forecheck, which is an element of transition, but not one we've talked about greatly because it hasn't been what's really been shooting them in the foot. But it was not very effective in Sunday's game. But I also think that has a little bit to do with the Wild West, track meet style that was Sunday's game. So,
yeah. And I think if there's any season to make slow progress in the right direction, why not pick one where you're the only North American minor league team to unofficially not have a championship rewarded? If you're going to pick a year to move ahead and to develop your guys a little bit more, why not a year where the Calder Cup isn't being given out? So again, unofficially, quote unquote. But Sean, last but not least, do you have any closing thoughts on the Hershey Bears and Binghamton Devils series from this past weekend?
Yeah, a few quick ones. I wasn't that surprised when the Devils came back to win on Friday, as I thought they looked like the better team through quite a few stretches of Friday's game prior to Hershey's just falling apart. And I think that was something that kind of set the stage. Yes, Mark Dennehy calling timeout, and I don't know. I feel like it got overblown of how yelly he was at his team. He got angry, but not a John Tortorella screaming and throwing stuff tantrum. He was mad, but not, I don't know. I felt like that got overblown a bit, but they looked good before that point. They just, made a couple of bad mistakes and Hershey buried them. That's the nature of hockey in general. But Cormier stole them a loser point for Sunday. They they were the second best team on Sunday. And I thought by a pretty wide margin, but not one that really I would call wasn't their transition game. It was just Hershey executed better and in general looked like the more talented team. But they got Cormier saved them from what probably should have been a 5 or 6 goal margin, because he came up huge for them in moments. The other thing too, I wanted to point out is Nolan Foote played probably his best game away from the puck that he's played this season. In the first one on, what was that, Friday? Yeah, Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Drew a penalty in the third by beating his defender to open ice. Forechecking pressure from Nolan Foote led to their tying goal in the third. It was a good forechecking game from him in general. And one of the things that I've been kind of campaigning on, and CZ, you can back me up on this, is that they needed to get him more involved, more puck touches.
Right.
And yep, but that's one thing, that puck touches are important. And when I say puck touches, I literally mean just him having the puck on his stick, touching the puck. It builds confidence. It helps development. It helps get him into the game. It kind of reminds me a little bit of former UFC light heavyweight champion Forrest Griffin, who was a notorious slow starter in his fights, who it seemed like needed to get hit a little bit to wake up. That's kind of what puck touches do. They get you into the game. They make you feel connected. And him getting more involved and getting the puck on his stick more is going to help him build and develop. And it's certainly working. They did it this game. He looked great throughout the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, the more reps you get in, I don't care what sport it is, and especially when you're actually in game time. And I think that's why a lot of AHL clubs and a lot of, NHL clubs and AHL clubs are rotating goaltenders, especially. I mean, players in general, but goaltenders especially, they're rotating them off the taxi squad and either up to the NHL for a game or two, or down to the AHL for a number of games, just to get these guys, that opportunity to be confident. Obviously here covering Colorado, Jean-Luc Foudy, you put him on the top line for the first couple games for the Colorado Eagles, that builds confidence, and then, just recently he had a 2-goal game against Texas. So yeah, more puck touches can't be anything but a good thing for Nolan Foote. So last but not least, I know we had the closing stuff, but we also have another 6-pack goalie poll challenge winner.
Yes, we do. And as much grief as I have given Spencer Carberry for special teams things like the power play, which I imagine he probably farms out to an assistant, but still, buck falls on you when you're the head coach. He won himself a 6-pack for the goalie pool challenge. He got Fucale out at the first opportunity at 2 minutes, 35 seconds left in the third. I am the arbitrary decider of what counts as first opportunity and who gets awarded. And I say he got it. They also won that game. So again, being rewarded for doing the right thing with pulling your goalie earlier and earlier. Spencer Carberry, I have a 6-pack of beer for you. Slide into our DM, send us an email, tell us where you want it and what kind of beer you want, and I will get it there. That is the goalie pool 6-pack challenge, and that's how we do it here.
Yes, and I totally had that backwards. I've called it a number of different things, but the goalie pull 6-pack challenge, because you got to pull your goalie to get the 6-pack. So there you have it. And we haven't had an opportunity to give that out quite yet, but we do have another person coming up in the show. Little foreshadowing here that we may have to give the nod to. So stay tuned for that, of course. And I think we're due to take our first break, go to some commercials, gain some income so that Sean can continue his globe trotting rather to exotic places like Iceland in front of an active volcano. So after these messages, hang on tight, listen to them so we can get a little more coin in our pocket, keep things rolling here. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back. We just covered Hershey and Binghamton, and now it's time to go north of the border, don't you know? And we're going to talk about, like Sean mentioned when I wasn't here, but I did listen. I did go back and listen. We're going to talk about French Canadian versus fake Canadian. We had Laval and Stockton, actually 3 games over, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, but we're just going to focus on Saturday, Sunday, and thankfully she's back and available this Monday evening as we're recording. And, well, without further ado, let's bring back on Paige Stewart. Paige, welcome back.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you for coming back. I'm glad we didn't scare you off. So.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. The night is young. There's still daylight in that window over there. So,
Yeah, for
well,
you.
Well, that's very true.
Right.
Yeah. Paige and I are mountain time zone, and Sean, you're in the east. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's sunny here, so it's also kind of warm, but that's whatever.
Yeah. Make sure you're not like too close to the liquid hot magma, please.
Don't worry, I brought marshmallows.
Oh, good. Making
All right,
s'mores.
let's speaking of heat, let's talk about this this series that we totally got wrong. We all called splits in various forms or one way or the other, saying like there's probably no chance that Laval or the Heat take one of these as a sweep, and that's what they did.
Sure did.
That's exactly what they did. Yeah.
That is. I mean, inevitably was going to happen that we were going to brick on one of these, but like, yep. But these games were not one-sided. They were very competitive and a lot of fun. Saturday's game basically had everything you could want in a hockey game, in my opinion. I mean, there were back-to-back odd man rushes, minutes-long ozone possessions. There were huge hits where Cale Fleury tried to basically murder a dude, and then he just bounces right back up. You also had some animosity between the two teams that they clearly were not on the friendliest of terms, but like not in so much that it got to be goonish per se. You also had a 6-on-5 goal. Always a big fan. I mean, Saturday's game really had everything. Paige, what did you think of Saturday's game on the whole?
Well, you kind of summed it up. Overall, it was just great hockey, and it was good to watch. You never really know how the top teams are going to compete against each other until they're actually there. And yeah, being more kind of Stockton biased, I'd like to see them take that game, but just kind of seeing the way they're able to compete and actually get a little bit, not that they haven't been challenged this season, but to get actually more of a legitimate challenge this weekend was really nice to see. So, I mean, it's got a sting to lose that one on Saturday, and then kind of go on to lose Sunday as well. But there are good points that they can take out of that to move forward in the series for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was funny too, because I feel like when we did the preview, we did a good job of basically talking about like this was going to be the battle of forechecks, of who could establish forecheck supremacy for the longest. And that's really what Saturday's game came down to, I thought, is a lot of just one side would forecheck the other really well. They'd hem them in their end a little bit. They'd get a possession going, or they would lose that forecheck battle. And then you saw those chances getting traded back and forth, which was wild. And then you saw Laval kind of take it over a little bit and do basically the opposite of that. Overall, I thought it was pretty evenly played, although not equally played, I guess I'd say. Like it balanced out, but there were definitely long stretches where one side was clearly playing as the better team for a handful of minutes, and then it would flip. But that's what made Saturday's game so fun. Sunday's game, I felt like Laval was probably the better team from what I saw. What did you think of Sunday's game?
I was happy to see them compete for so long, them being Stockton. Yeah, it was a 4-1 game, but if you watch that's a 1-1 game until the last 5 minutes. So they get 2 of those 4 goals were empty net goals. So that's kind of, you look at the score and you're like, oh, that was kind of a blowout. Did they even try? Whatever. The comments and the commentary start, but it really, really didn't feel like it. I was kind of expecting, kind of going back and rewatching that game, I was expecting it to feel more one-sided as well. I was expecting Laval to come out and kind of steamroll them a little bit and to really feel like that they were just trying to catch up to them in the zone, but I really didn't get that feeling. There was guys that were putting out chances, and I just feel like the bounces weren't going their way that night, and they had a bunch of opportunities that were just ringing off the crossbar or off the post or anything like that, and there was guys that were getting good looks, so it just wasn't going their way that day. So that's kind of how the score reflects that, but in my mind, that was a 2-1 game for Laval.
Were you going to say
Go ahead, Cece.
Oh, okay. No, I was just going to say, I think that's super important, and it's kind of belaboring the point a little bit, but people can look at the box score and exactly like Paige said and say, oh, that was a 4-1 loss. And if they don't look any further into the game sheet and see, oh, well, those last 2 goals were 2 empty net goals, then it kind of, a lot more competitive game if you dig a little deeper and actually watch the game, of course. But But yeah, it's just not a cautionary tale, but just a word of warning. Like, hey, don't always just take the score and don't always take our word for it. Maybe dig a little deeper. And I mean, obviously, Paige watched the game, so do take her word for it. But in regards to empty net goals and everything, but I digress. I was actually going to bring up another question for both of you. And that is in regards to, of course, Stockton's special teams, their power play in particular, coming back down to earth a little bit. So Stockton now boasts 14 goals on 52 tries, a much less than 40% plus power play conversion rate at 26.92. So I was curious on your guys' take, not just the power play, but the penalty kill. What did the special teams look like for both Stockton and Laval this weekend?
Well, for me, I think Laval's power play is, if I remember right, it's in like the high teens percentage wise, like 19, 18, something like that.
It's actually 20% even right now.
20 on the nose. Yeah.
On the nose. Yes, sir.
I think what's interesting is how different like their 5-on-5 play is from their power play, like the way that they operate. Like and I mean, I'm kind of the belief that like 5-on-4 hockey is practically a different sport than 5-on-5 hockey. Like so much of the dynamics of the game change completely as you start pulling guys off the ice. It's like 3-on-3 and 5-on-5 are also look like separate games. But I think the biggest thing for me watching Laval's power play is I don't think that they use the same basic power play structure that everyone does, the 1-3-1, and it doesn't seem like they have necessarily the right talent for what I think a lot of them want to do. And it's weird, like, because their 5-on-5 game is so enjoyable to watch and very much fits the personalities and the skills that they have, and they complement each other really well. Whereas when they go to the power play, I don't feel like what makes them good 5-on-5 translates as well to their power play structure. But I realize too, like, they probably don't get a lot of say in that in terms of coaching, because Montreal's gonna be like, this is what you're playing, suck it.
Paige, what do you think about Stockton special teams from this weekend?
It's unfortunate because I don't know, you start the season off, you have high hopes, you see the stats and you get excited and everything. I think the problem with their special teams is kind of reflecting on their strength play as well. There were guys that were averaging 3-4 points a game who've fallen off the last few games, and that they were getting a lot of the points on the power play. So that's I kind of see the correlation there that way. And they've also lost players. They have a couple injuries. They've had having Connor Zary for the first few games, and then him going back to the WHL. He's a great player. So him being on the top line, he was getting top minutes. He was getting the first shift for the power play and everything like that. So they lost some key playmakers that have made their power play so effective up until this point. And I think that's kind of happened throughout the course of the season and moving on into the games as well. So I think the scoring as a whole is kind of derivative of that, and it's kind of really reflecting it on the power play, where you'd be seeing more scoring chances for them.
I mean, them losing Connor Zary, that's all part of Joel Bouchard's secret plan to get the junior leagues running, because he only loses like one fourth line guy, and everybody else, disaster.
Yeah, loses their top prospects, but it's fine.
Run away.
So, like I said, I'm pitching this conspiracy theory all season long. Joel Bouchard is in those DMs of, the board of governors and the CHL. Like, how can we get this thing up and running? I need to win this division. But regardless, I think it's interesting too when you watch Stockton from earlier in the season to now. Like, their power play still looks great. It's just pucks were going in then, they're not going in now, because the nature of luck in hockey is, pretty dominating force. Especially if you look at like their rolling 2-week PDO overall, it's like super crappy when they started out and they got, housed by Toronto in 2 games. Yeah. Then absolute opposite. Then now they're starting to come back towards earth a little bit more, and thusly their power play, they're starting to cool off to be a reasonably good team instead of, God mode, which we talked about a little bit too. But you saw that a little more in this game. Like they still generated the same chances, the same looks they were using when their power play was clicking at a, unsustainable rate. It's just now they're not going in. So if anyone's out there who also is just watching box scores and is like, panic, power play bad now. No, this is what we always thought was going to happen, and it's coming to fruition. So at least we look smart in that sense.
I mean, yeah, it was. Hey, it was power play PDO. It was power play puck luck. Ultimately, is that again an unsustainable rate? Now Laval is on a 5-game winning streak. Stockton's on a 4-game losing streak. The 1 and 2 teams in the Canadian division. I mean, like we said before, Laval, we pegged them as being the top team in the Canadian division in the preseason. But Stockton kind of surprised us. And so to have this, very strong PDO run, as it were, and then to come back down to earth, and guess what? Stockton's still second place in the Canadian division, even after losing 4 games, even after only garnering a point out of 8 possible points.
I do also want to say one other thing. How much more fun would the Pacific Division have been this year if Stockton had stayed?
It would have been just that much more competitive. Like we said, just the most competitive division in the AHL. I mean,
we could have had Stockton Henderson. Oh, what if you thought these games were fun against Laval, my God, Stockton Henderson would have been.
It's like that old vintage clip of those 2 freight trains coming at each other. You got 2 PDO trains, and then they just crash into each other and accordion.
I also want to say too, Cece, you might have to look this up as I stall for you. Sure. I believe Laval's PDO is like right around 100 too, which is terrifying.
Are you talking estimated or rolling?
Give me both. I believe both of them are still pretty close to 100.
Okay.
Which is terrifying because that means not only is Laval doing this well and this good, they're not even getting lucky. This is Laval at regular, good old, normal puck luck. I'm pretty sure. What do you got, Cece?
Estimated PEO. Estimated PDO is 99.35.
Yeah.
And the rolling bi-monthly PDO, let's see here. Let's go to the Canadian division. And we've got Laval. No, that's Toronto, Manitoba. You've got all these charts. It's only a model. 99.36.
Yeah.
So 0.01 more. Yeah, that's scary that they're almost right even keel in regards to PDO. And
if you watch, when you watch that team play, they play the same, their good games and bad games come down to just, do they execute their forecheck well enough? How good of, I want to say puck luck, but are pucks hitting their sticks well, catching passes well. It's just sharpness of system or sharpness of execution. That's the difference between good Laval Knights and bad Laval Knights. They're not an overwhelmingly talented team, but God, they play so well together and within the system that Bouchard has for them, as well as they skate, they roll 4 lines and all of them move. That's the one thing where I think you see a lot of difference between the way that they're built and a lot of other teams, whereas some other teams have just guys who are big, out there to basically go out there, throw their body around and do violence, but aren't fast or technically that gifted with puck skills or good shooters or anything like that. But they're, your 4th line energy guys. You're one big left-hand defenseman who kills penalties, who just cross-checks people in the back that somehow don't get ever called. And Laval really does not have that guy or those guys. They are very much a leaner, faster skating team. And it's been amazing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So wrapping it up here, I know this is the weekend recap show, but I think with a game tomorrow, again, between these 2 teams to wrap up their 4-game set, Tuesday night, 5 p.m. Mountain. Obviously, it's going to be the same day, March 23rd, that this episode comes out. But Paige, what does Stockton have to do to break out of this funk and to end this Laval series on a high note and come away with a win?
Well, I actually listened to an interview with head coach Cal McLean today. He was on kind of Calgary local radio there, and it's just sounding like they really need to hit the tape and see where they went wrong and kind of make those adjustments going forward. I think it's kind of just placing their shots better is the biggest thing from especially Sunday's game, because one or two of those goes in and it's a different game. It's also kind of being awareness is a thing too. There's a couple bad turnovers and stuff that not necessarily led to scoring chances, but definitely could have. Just kind of have to clean it up and kind of get out of their own heads. They haven't faced a whole lot of adversity up until this point, because I don't know if you want to call the first two games really that much of adversity when you go on a winning streak right after. But when it comes to these, they have to kind of rise to the challenge instead of just kind of playing through it and hoping to make it to the end. So I think everyone needs to dig a little deeper and see what they can bring to help the team tomorrow or today when this does come out, and hopefully those pucks go in when they need to.
Yeah, I definitely think puck management was a contributing factor on Sunday a little bit. Like they weren't like first 2 weeks Binghamton sloppy, executing, but like there were definitely some moments. I think there was one, if I remember correctly, on Sunday, turnover like right at their blue line, comes right back around. I think it was 2-0. Laval buries one in like the opening minute or something like that. That sounds, yeah.
Tape to tape, just the wrong guy.
Yep, and it was one of those where it's just like, was that a poorly timed turnover? Yeah, of course. There's never a good time to turn the puck over at your blue line. That's always like ain't nobody got time for that. But like it was one of those where it's just like, but you didn't have to make that pass. Mm-hmm. Like those are the little things I think that, like you said, and that Cale McLean kind of touched on. And I heard the same interview today too.
Yeah.
That just working better on little moments like that of puck management, of making not necessarily better decisions, but less risky ones.
Mm-hmm.
I like how Paige is like local there in the Calgary area, and Sean, you being in Iceland, of course, it's like, oh yeah, you picked up that interview, no problem. It's just like
the internet's a wonderful place. I didn't listen to it on the actual radio. Like, who listens to the actual radio anymore these days? Like,
got the little rabbit ear antennas going and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I operate at my day job. I got the little rabbit ears on the side, and I just tune it in, and yeah, listen to Denver local radio.
I don't think I've listened to actual like live radio in forever. It's got to have been at least 4 or 5 years. But
I mean, millennials, Gen Z, that's not our
I know
style
we're
normally. So
chalk it up. Millennials killed radio. It's our fault, guys.
Yeah, we're the podcast generation. That's our plight.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
2 things I do want to touch on before we kick Paige out of here.
Oh, sure.
One, we got to talk about the Pospisil injury. Like, that's a crappy hit. That's all that you can really say. That was a crappy hit. I mean, yes, he was trying for a legal hit, but don't stick your leg out then. It's not any more complicated than don't stick your leg out and do shit like that. And I actually have a fun little twist here because I went diving through trying to see if I could find anything more about this. This is probably the worst luck in terms of injury timing that you could possibly have, as Pospisil was apparently scheduled for surgery Thursday, as in the day after this comes out. So 2 days after this comes out, he was going to go for surgery. This was supposed to be his last game, allegedly, that he was going for surgery to fix his arm. And this happened. Like, yes, it ultimately doesn't change a whole ton, except for the fact that like his leg is, I mean, I don't have an official diagnosis, but it did not look good. Like most of the time when you see guys, pull an MCL or something like that in football, they're not like writhing on the ground in pain. Like they just get up and they know like, okay, this thing is now good. Like this muscle ligament is now gone. Him being in very visible agony makes me think that this is something broken, but I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on TV or on this podcast, but he's going to be gone for a while for hopefully to fix, whatever is wrong with his arm and then whatever is wrong with the legs at this point. But yeah, that sucks to get hurt in what was going to be your last game of the season anyway.
Yeah, and he got moved to the top line that game too. Yeah, so he was, and I didn't watch the game live, so I saw some stuff on Twitter about it, and if you're kind of squeamish when it comes to injuries, I wouldn't look it up because it's very tough to watch, and especially on the broadcast. They show it 3 or 4 times, and if you're watching it up close, that is an ugly injury, and he's just there in absolute agony and everything. I'm just like, this was his shot. I didn't know that it was going to be his last game, if that's what was going on there, but he was really starting to get his time up with Ruzicka and Phillips, and that could have changed the game for them too, because those guys have been gelling all year, and it's just been kind of rotating whoever else is playing with them, and he's been playing good himself too. I feel like, I don't know the exact stat, but I feel like he was averaging a point every game or two, or so. He was definitely contributing. He was standing out. We'd talked to him a few times post game, so it really sucks to see him go, especially in that fashion too.
Yeah, that does, it absolutely does. And I didn't see it live, but I knew that when it was coming. And as soon as it happened, I'm like, and we're hitting that skip button because I do not want to watch that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not into that. Last thing I wanted to cover, I don't know if you are aware of our goalie pool 6-pack challenge, but Cale McLean is a winner. Pulls his goalie down by 1 with 3 minutes and 4 seconds left. That is absolutely a man after my heart. So, Cale McLean, if you are listening or able to find someone who will get this message to you, there is a free 6-pack of beer from us to you. If you so desire, send me where to ship it to and what kind of beer that you want, and I will send you a 6-pack of that beer to that address, because this is the goalie pool 6-pack challenge. You pull your goalie with 2 minutes or 40 seconds or better at the nearest opportune time, and we will send you beer, because I want to see goalies get pulled earlier and have more of that 6-on-5 end game tactics. We need to do better that about hockey. So this is how I reward it, with beer, because I don't know what else to do. So, yep. Cale McLean, goalie pool 6-pack challenge winner. Beer is on us.
I'll go drop it off at the Dome. It's about 10 minutes away from me.
Ooh.
Oh,
But yeah.
see, okay, all right. We talked about this on, I think, the last episode or 2 episodes ago. Okay, Paige, being an Albertan. All right, so you have Labatt beer. You even have Moosehead from north of the border there. What is the beer of choice? Like, what is the generic go-to beer in the province of Alberta?
I want to say Molson Canadian, Coors Light, or Bud Light is usually what people go for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Molson Canadian. That's the kind of the local draft, though. I mean, Coors and Bud, that's kind of,
that's everywhere.
I think you can go anywhere and
Yeah.
have that. But yeah, Molson Canadian. Okay. Did I completely forget about Molson? I feel like I might have, Sean.
I mean, I don't know. I don't live in your memory. So
we had that conversation between us. At least I thought so. Weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'm a Labatt's guy, but that's because I'm from Buffalo. That's the beer of Buffalo.
Gotcha.
Anyways, anything else for Paige, as we are clearly dragging this out?
Hey, we're having a good conversation. So I
Yep.
mean, it tends to happen with our guests. But Paige, once again, thank you for coming on. And whenever we need some picks and whenever you're available, I mean, we'll be sure to have you on again. Just for kicks and giggles, if somebody hadn't heard you on the program before, where can they find your work?
Yeah, you can find my writing at fullpresshockey.com. We have an AHL section now, so I will be in there. And I'm also on Twitter at flames_update. And I don't get to quite every game, but I try to live tweet as much as I can for Stockton games. If you don't have a streaming package, I got you covered.
There you go. Paige, thank you once again for joining us, and you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks. You guys too.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, Paige Stewart covering the Stockton Heat of Calgary for Full Press Hockey AHL. All right, well, hey, I think we're due for another break. So, Sean, go drink some water, stay hydrated next to that big volcano there, and listen to our ads, listen to our sponsors. More coin for us, reward us for all the hard work that we're doing. So, after these messages, we'll be right back. Stay tuned. All right, we are back from our advertisements, and we are ready to take on our second guest of the evening. Another great female writer from Full Press Hockey, the AHL staff, and near and dear to my heart, of course. Yeah, I mean, I recruited him, so, of course I'm going to be a little partial there, but I digress. Elaine Shircliff coming back on from the AHL Central Division coverage From Full Press Coverage, Full Press Hockey, Elaine, welcome back to the show.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Hello.
It's a little warm in here, but otherwise I can't complain.
Yeah.
Is it really
it's not Beck
warm?
warm in here.
Oh, Beck
It's not
warm. He's
Beck
so
warm in here.
good.
Oh, he really is. It's totally showing out this year. But hey,
we should just do a whole segment with dad jokes. Not right
that's
now.
half
In
our
the
show.
future.
that's half our show, Elaine. I mean, have you not been listening to us? No. Well, hey, Elaine, we wanted to bring you back in to talk about the Rockford Ice Hogs and Iowa Wild, the postponed series. It was supposed to take place on Friday and Saturday. They delayed the games to take place on Sunday and Monday, and it is actually 10:07 p.m. Eastern time. So we brought you on after that final game because, and Elaine, thank you for that idea, because I was like, maybe we could have you on before, or maybe I could do a segment, a little later, but no, we got all three of us on the show. And we're going to do it. We're going to talk about our picks. We're going to talk about the Sunday game, 6 p.m. at Rockford. The Monday game tonight, as we're recording, just got finished, 6 p.m. at Rockford as well. Elaine picked a Rockford sweep. She even put in scores, 5-0 on Sunday, 3-2 on Monday. Boy, were you wrong.
I was so wrong. I was like really confident. My gut was like, do it, Elaine, do it. And my gut has never been wrong. And so I feel very confused about my life right now because it was so wrong. Well, I wasn't expecting Iowa to come in the way they came in.
Well, and guess what? I'm gonna boast a little bit. I picked Iowa on Sunday, and I picked Rockford on Monday. And Sean said if there's no Barabo, Rockford was gonna sweep. If there was Barabo, Wild were going to sweep. Barabo was nowhere to be seen. It was the Hunter Jones show. And boy,
it was.
Is that a sad syndicated show that's playing this season? Maybe
No.
not syndicated, but
I mean, yes, but here's the thing. It's because the defense isn't doing their job completely. Hunter Jones is a good goal. I mean, he's young and he has things he needs to work on. But I mean, tonight, for example, okay, he tracked the puck. It went over the net and he was unsure if it hit like out of bounds play. So he turned around while he was tracking it and he tried to chest bump the puck because it like hit towards the net. And he ended up knocking the net over in the process, and it had gone technically out of bounds. So, but you have to take that kind of trackability and willingness to use other parts of your body than the stick and your legs you have to take that and run with it, right? Like they have to find a way they need a goalie coach for him that will really, really hammer out some of those issues. Like maybe you don't knock the net off the moorings, like
maybe don't try to chest bump the puck. I mean, I appreciate the effort. I mean, not to be a contrarian for you, Elaine, but it's like that just seems like it puts you at a disadvantage and puts you in bad position. Sean, I can see you biting at the.
I really thought that story was going to go a different direction. That's why I started to like slowly do the face palm, because I thought it was going to come back in. He was going to chest bump it and put it in the net, and that was going to be like that was where I thought this was going. Because obviously I haven't seen the game that Elaine just covered because we were literally doing the podcast. But like
Right.
That's having seen like a lot of like I feel bad for Hunter Jones because yes, the defense is in front of him. And I think he can eventually be a very good goaltender. Maybe because goaltending is basically made up, but like he has problems now this season, and like just trotting him out there to get murdered every night is like that cannot be helping.
Like, I don't think he minds. In the sense of, I don't think he minds getting the playing time. I mean, last night on Sunday, he made some saves that really, oh my goodness. Like, he saw the puck go in between his 5-hole and he knew it didn't go in the net. Like, he knew it. Like, you could see his brain working. And he saw the Ice Hogs coming in, so he clamped his leg down even harder onto the ice and turned so that he now had a whole leg in front of the net so they couldn't try and poke it through. Now, lots of goaltenders will do that and knock the puck in the net because they have no clue where it's at, and they don't put their leg down all the way. So he has these pieces of brilliance, and he just needs a coach who's going to take that brilliance and these fundamentals and be like, okay, you can put them together, but we need to make sure they connect like that all the time, not some of the time. So he's probably getting a lot of really good practice because the defense just kind of lets things through.
And because of that defense, that porous defense, we'll be a little kind. Well, porous isn't kind at all, actually. So, but Hunter Jones, we'll leave this stat line here, and then we'll go into the first game, the 5-3 victory that Iowa pulled out on Sunday night. But Hunter Jones, 5-1 with a 5.14 goals against average and a .837 save percentage.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that first game, shall we?
So real quick, though, I want to say that a lot of those goals are not softy goals.
Okay.
A lot of the goals that he sees, they're not always softies. You know, when you think about a goaltender having that kind of stat, you think soft ones through the 5 holes and didn't get his hand up in time, that kind of stuff. Especially recently, it's been like people worked hard to make those goals happen. The hustle was strong, or they were set up alone at the blue line and threw it through traffic, just like Hail Married it through traffic. And he's screened by literally every person on the ice and it goes in. And that's not a goalie problem. That unfortunately happens when everyone's all jumbled from the slot all the way to the blue line. Like there's no sense of vision.
Yeah, if it's a systemic problem coming from the team in front of him, I mean, they're not doing him any favors, in his rookie season, especially coming off of, 3 seasons in the OHL, which were, I mean, that his most recent season, 31, 14, and 3, 2.75 goals against average and a .913. He's a pretty serviceable goaltender. I'm imagining if you put a good system in front of him. So yeah, based by your observations and what I can read kind of in between the lines on the stat line as best as I can. I've never actually seen Hunter Jones play. So maybe I'm being a little harsh on that, but Sean, go ahead.
Like it's definitely more, the defense plays like crap in front of him. Yes, he's definitely gotten some bad, just puck luck in terms of getting saves, but there's also some moments too where like, I am not as high on him. Like, I don't think he's this bad a goalie. Like, let's be clear.
Yes.
He's like, if you look at the goalie charts on my Tableau page, he is on a little island on his own in the bottom, in like the bad corner. And I don't think he's that bad. I do think he's still very raw. His rebound control is something that his goalie coach should be working with him every single minute there on the ice. But like, he's decent at making the first saves. He's very explosive in his movement. Like, but I think sometimes too, he ends up pushing too strongly off and ends up then overshooting the mark that he's going to.
Yes.
But I still think there is a good goaltender in there, but I cannot imagine that this is doing good things for like, because mentally confidence is a huge part of being a goaltender, and him getting murdered every night. Like,
but he doesn't even seem like he's not, how you can tell, like, Steve Mason had what people called Mace face. So many goals would score on him and you would see the life leave his eyes and he would just have like dead eyes and a dead face. I've never seen a goaltender get lit up so many times in a game and just be like, okay, cool, let's keep going. Like, he's so cool as a cucumber outwardly. Now, I don't know what's going on inside, obviously. So he could be having that like mental kind of issue with it, but I don't think that Coach Tim Army would continue to put a player out there who was feeling very, very unconfident. He does not strike me as the kind of coach that would do that to his goalie, especially if the goalie was like, hey, this is like, no, this is too much for me. I'm new, I'm still learning, so if Coach knows that, I don't think that he would put him out there. But so we don't know if that's how Hunter Jones is feeling either.
Yep. All right, let's get into Sunday's game here. In case you hadn't seen kind of the scope of the weekend from covering the Central, this was a wild weekend across the AHL in general. And
Yes.
Sunday's game was fast and loose, and I loved it.
It was great.
We talked in the preview a bunch about how Rockford needed to work on their transition game, and I don't know if I would call it, not like Binghamton where I'm like, oh, this is fixed now. Not doing that. This was still an improvement, though. They got zone exits improved. They did a good job of shutting the Wild down in the neutral zone. Their rush offense and chances off odd man and even man rushes, too, that still left me wanting a lot. It felt like a lot of times they'd gain the line in the zone with numbers, and they would just get pushed to the outside. It was like watching bubble hockey where you're just skating on one line. Like, they never seemed to try and make plays towards the inside or get pucks there or, pull up and find a trailer. And one thing that killed a lot of their rush chances was staying on side.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The
I
amount of
offsides. I don't know how many times I watched a rush chance for Rockford and Iowa in Sunday's game get screwed up because they were offside. And I have review. I can rewind and pause. And a lot of cases, they're really close or whatever. Or in some cases, the ref blows it dead and is wrong. These though were he was Matt Duchene levels of offside, and you can't be doing that as a professional hockey player.
Look at you pulling that reference out of your rear end. Matt Duchene levels of off. That was a bad one. That was a really bad one. You want to talk about Avalanche fandom lore that, just in the local sphere here. I mean, that is legendary status right there. Well played.
The man got offside review added to the rule book because of that, which is a whole different thing. One day we will get into that, but that's not for today's show.
For today's show. Go ahead, Sean.
That would be that was one of the things that I was troubled by with Rockford's play on Sundays, the bubble hockeyness of their rush chances. We gain the line, no problem, and then we're just going to go right on the dot line and never try and cut in.
Yeah, I will say, so there were two things about Sunday night's game. The voodoo magic of Matt Tompkins is gone. He definitely didn't finish things. He didn't swat things out of the air. He didn't hold on to them. He was not the same goaltender that we had seen, which was actually kind of disappointing because one of my favorite positions to watch is the goaltender because they're quirky and there's a lot of minor things they can do to really change momentum of a game around. And people tend to think they're just there to stop pucks. They add a little bit more to the game than that. And so when a goalie starts doing really well, who's been struggling, it's really exciting to see for me. And it was okay, this is not good. He's reverting back again. Obviously, people are allowed to have an off night, but he's had more off nights than on nights this season. And in a shortened season, it's not the best to have. And the other thing is that I know Sean doesn't care that much about face-offs, but I'm obsessed. So last night, they did a horrible job on the face-off, awful. Okay. And the goals that they did score, I think two of them were either Cody Francis was off the face-off win.
Right.
Another one was 3 or 4 passes off the win. And then the other, that's what and then tonight they were winning face-offs left and right. For the Ice Hogs, they have to have that control right away, I feel like. If they don't have that control right away, they're not able to do what they want to do. Some teams kind of struggle with that. But that's something I've noticed about the Ice Hogs, and that's why I tend to bring up the Cleveland Monsters and the Rockford Ice Hogs. I will always bring up face-offs because when they win face-offs, they do well. I know, Sean, I see your face.
Face-offs don't matter.
They totally do. I mean, and the thing is every team has a thing that matters the most to them than another team, too. I mean, some teams play better on the penalty kill. That was the Monsters one year. It was like just take 2 penalties while you're on the power play. Like so that you could have the advantage. Do that because their power play was awful. You know, some things that matter to teams to win don't matter to other ones. I wish it was like face-offs don't matter as a whole. Then we wouldn't do them, Sean.
We have to start the game somehow when it stops. Like we'd still have face-offs, but they're not important. I will. It's like there is a lot of research into face-offs and connecting them to anything else in terms of winning games, scoring goals, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Sean's very passionate about that.
Totally matters. I am also very passionate about this. I don't believe that research.
This is what happens.
Okay.
An unstoppable object meets an immovable force. Let's move on before we I don't want these guys, causing a train wreck or anything in regards to face-off opinions. So, Elaine, I have a question for you.
I'm scared.
Having you shouldn't be scared. Having just come and fresh in your head this Monday night game, Rockford handily winning against Iowa 6-1, as we mentioned. And then, in that first game, losing, 5-3 against Iowa. I know it's kind of a simplistic question, but the differences, like for Rockford, what were some of the keys that Rockford applied to Monday night's game that they didn't necessarily apply to Sunday night's game, or maybe did, but just not effectively, that led to this victory, this decisive victory, this evening as we record?
Well, the first period was honestly the best one for them. They came out confident. Their plays were beautiful. They drew them up very well, and they executed them very well.
That helps.
They knew that Iowa was clearly not going to back down because Iowa has always been all season one of those respond back teams, even if it doesn't show it on the scoreboard. But they're always going toe to toe, and they were very confident. I think that's what it was, is they were very much ready to play tonight. And they were speeding through the neutral zone like crazy. Like I can't even, there were times where I just like blinked and they were through the neutral zone and making a play for the net. They didn't have to speak to each other audibly. They knew what the other person was doing. Kale Morris as well. They play differently in front of Kale Morris, 100%. They look more confident. The defense doesn't play right on the crease the whole time, and they are incredibly protective of him. If anyone so much as breathes at him, they're gonna punch him in the face. That's what I feel like. The difference is confidence. They came in with speed and accuracy, and Kale Morris. That's the difference.
I have one question something I noticed in Sunday's game and wanted to see if this was something that still happened in Monday's game. I thought on Sunday's game, Rockford was still the better team against Iowa, even though Iowa won that game. I think, the power of Gary Mayhew is what got Iowa through Sunday's game. But I also noticed that Rockford likes doing these offensive zone laps. And I wanted to see if you would, if that was something you saw in tonight's game, where like they will gain possession in the offensive zone, and then they will just have a dude skate the puck like around the perimeter of the offensive zone, like trying to find a lane or make a pass, but then they always end up just putting it back to the point for a shot. Like
they did a variation of that tonight, but it wasn't quite that. They did a lot of getting and stealing pucks off the wall and going behind the net and coming around. They did a lot of behind the net work in the offensive zone tonight, which I found very intriguing because it led to some really sweet setups and rebound catches and just great plays. They do that though. It's kind of annoying. Like they get the puck and they have complete control, and then They just kind of circle like a shark around the ozone. And then they're like, okay, there's nothing to do here. So we're just going to launch it from the blue line or center ice or someplace super random that you're like, oh, okay, we're doing that. But tonight that's not what they did.
I mean, that's because I just remember seeing that in Sunday's game, and I'm like, okay, I understand, like, trying to create, space, get lanes, whatever, but like they never did anything off of it that was, I felt like, productive. It was like, all right, we took our lap now that was required by coach. So low percentage point shot.
Right. I think they weren't expecting Iowa to come out so strong last night too. I think people look at Iowa's record and look at, Hunter Jones's stats and go, oh, this team is whatever. We don't have to come in hot and heavy, but you do, because a lot of things aren't clicking for them, but they're still usually in it with the other team. So even if, like, when they lost 10-1, right, against the Wolves, they didn't play. It wasn't a dumpster fire. The score yelled dumpster fire, but that game was not a dumpster fire. It was soft shots, didn't go in. It was missed defensive breakdowns, but like, that's the thing with the Wild. And I think the Ice Hogs came into that first game like, we could be a little bit chill about this. And they were wrong.
Yeah. Also, Iowa is a very no chill at all team. Like, I think that they are struggling a good bit. And I think some of it is that they don't have some of the firepower they had last year and are putting guys who are not quite ready for the roles that they're given into the roles that they're given. But that's why it seemed like on Sunday's game for me, it was like, if it wasn't Jerry Mayhew doing the offense or occasionally Connor Dewar, the offense wasn't really getting done too well. And
right.
That to me is, when you lose guys like, I mean, they had a wagon last year with, Mayhew and Anas and, all of the guys that are now on the taxi squad or elsewhere, this was always going to not be as good a team, but
right. I feel like they were hit the hardest out of all of the teams in the Central. Just because once they started getting things cooking in the beginning of the season, Minnesota had that outbreak. And so they had to call up all those guys. And it just kind of, it made things just really weird, and the connections weren't so much there.
I also thought too, at times on Sunday, I know one of the big concerns coming into the AHL this season from fans was like, these players are going to treat these like, there's no Calder Cup to play for. This is going to be basically glorified scrimmages. And by and large across the AHL, I have not seen that. Like, these look maybe not, the same caliber of play because of taxi squads and all of that, but like, you're still seeing guys out there, playing for the money that they do get, the opportunities in the NHL, just like you would any other AHL season. There were definitely moments though in that Sunday game where I felt like these are guys who it had a little more of a scrimmagey feel, like towards the end of the second period and parts of the third, where it's just like, it didn't have the intensity that I've seen from other games. Did you see that on Sunday too? And did you see any of that on Monday?
I saw that a little bit on Sunday, yeah, from both teams. Definitely did not see that tonight. From Monday night, no way. They were you would have thought with the way they played tonight, it was the Calder Cup playoffs. And I say that based on their passion and intensity, the fighting and the pushing. Like, the refs weren't calling anything, really. I mean, in the sense of what they should have been calling. And at one point towards the end, people were taking penalties and they're like, just get out of here. Just get out. Like, people were pushing and shoving and they're like, no, we're done with you. Because they're like, you have to play each other again. We have to play each other like 6 more times, right? Something like that. Insane like that, right?
I'll double check. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. They have to play each other a lot though. And I think the refs at that point are just like, this is getting out of hand. This is not going to become fight night. And so tonight it felt like both teams were really super into it and that they were playing for something and they were inspired. And it was, I think that their Ice Hogs were definitely way more inspired. That's for sure. Some of the ways they went about things, some of the goals they made, the plays they drew up, I was literally in awe. And then there were things on the side that I started noticing, like can you say his name again, Sean?
Altabarmakian.
Altabarmakian. I realized if the Chicago Blackhawks and Rockford Ice Hogs, if they learn to mold him right and get his accuracy of his shooting down, he's totally their next Patrick Kane. If they can get that spark in him, the way he skates, the way he outmuscles everyone, it's like Panarin, but better, which is Patrick Kane. And that is exactly like how he was playing. And I kept watching him skate. Those are like the minor things that people are missing from the Ice Hogs when they're watching the games, because typically people are caught up in the goal scoring and the bad penalties that they take sometimes because they get a little aggressive. But he's great on the flanks of the face-off too. He I don't know, there's something about him that's really special, and they need to be able to pull it out of him. And then you're seeing it with like Chris Wilkie and Reese Johnson. Like Reese Johnson, I was not expecting this out of, or even Nicholas Beaudin. I was not expecting what we're getting out of him this season either. So as the season's going on, they're starting to pick it up. And I think Derek King is starting to pull things out of them that are making things kind of click, because their passing is really good, and their communication. And it's just, tonight was fun to watch. If the Ice Hogs can play like this every night, they will be a hard team to play against. And the Hawks will have a hard time deciding who to bring up, because they will all be on par eventually, not right now.
All right. Last thing I think we need to discuss here is, we talk a lot about some analytics. We bring up PTO, the point shares model, a bunch of other stuff. One thing that Rockford is absolutely leading the league in is fictional names per 60. They are absolutely outstanding at having guys on their roster who sound like a made-up person. And I feel like we need to discuss this at least a little bit here. Like, as you said, Altabarmakian sounds like a solar system from Star Wars, and I'm still not convinced that it's not. What are your thoughts on the made-up names category here for Rockford?
Well, first of all, I just love hockey names because they always all sound made up. And I feel like I'm writing an actual storybook after games. Yeah, no, I love it. All their names are, it just, to me, the different and unique names that they have is, it's like exciting and fun, because it's not like just the stereotypical people from the same country or like the same group of people like playing. Not all of them have played together either. And you're just like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's really fun. And yeah, a lot of their names sound super made up. Like you said beforehand about Mackenzie Entwistle sounding like a Tolkien character. Like, I love it. And he kind of plays with such like magicalness sometimes. So I guess that could possibly be legit. I don't know. Their names are really fun.
I mean, I call Mackenzie Entwistle Boris the Spider because of that was nickname for John Entwistle, the bass player for The Who. And so, it's like, how often do you hear the last name Entwistle? And I'm like, Mackenzie Entwistle? Pff, Boris the Spider, John Entwistle. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and to pick the low hanging fruit here, I mean, Andre Altabar Machiavellian. I mean, come on. I mean, it's just sitting right there. I mean,
he is an artist. He is definitely an artist on the ice.
There you go.
So that might have to be a nickname. If anyone's listening, make that a nickname. What
about the cowboy Wyatt Kalnick? Howdy.
That's so fun, right? He sounds like a defender, right? It sounds like a defender name.
If we're going low hanging fruit, I don't know that anything gets more low hanging than DJ Bustecker. Like, yeah, that sounds like he should be a DJ that is like his DJ booth, like his
it's a
DJ
double
shop.
decker bus.
double-decker bus decker. Double-decker bus decker.
I just get so happy when I write about this team. Like, their names bring me great joy because they're not boring and they're fun. I don't know.
What about Michael?
It's not a lot of, Seth Jones and Mike Smiths and it's just they sound like characters out of novels and, movies and stuff like that. It's just like all of them on the same team.
Right. And when you talk about them, you can just get like super excited because their names are exciting and you can just like get people really into it.
What about the spy on the hockey team, Mitchell Fossier with the dossier? Oh,
that's
oh God.
All right.
Everybody on the Ice Hogs that might listen to this probably hates us right now.
God. No, just me, because I'm being super ridiculous, and Sean is like, end this segment. I regret this decision immediately.
Wait,
right,
listen
Elaine,
though, I've been waiting all season to be able to use something like pass the Cavassier in response to Fossey. So like I've been waiting, and there has not been that moment to shine. See, that's what's fun. As someone who loves using social media, like I'm making TikToks about these games before I hopped on here. Like unique names make it so much more fun to write about the team in that sense as well, because you can just kind of like slide their name into something like super random and people take off with it. And then it's like, yay, you get to see how great they are. And you love my jokes.
You love me. You really love me.
All right, Elaine, where can people find your jokes on the internet if they want to hear and read from you more?
At I'm a Rain Dancer. IMARAINDANCER. Just in case. Just in case anyone had any questions how to actually spell it. So
is there a website that maybe
people
can find your written work?
I'm really bad at promoting I am so awful at promoting myself. Sometimes I don't even tell people my name. Like it's just like, hi. I write at Full Press Hockey. Full press coverage. Oh my God, I didn't even say it right.
You just hesitated. You just hesitated. Full Press Hockey, full press coverage. That's www.fullpresshockey.com. Elaine, you just got done covering a hockey game. Your brain's probably all over the place. You definitely get a pass tonight. So Elaine Shircliff from Full Press Hockey covering the AHL's Central Division this season. All 6 teams. She is a machine. Elaine, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
You bet. Nice talking hockey with you. Nice laughing with you. Always good conversation.
Always laughing. Never stop.
Never stop. Can't stop, won't stop.
Nope.
See you, Elaine.
Bye.
All right, Elaine Shircliff. And that's our second of 2 guests on the evening. Hang tight. We're going to go out west, young men and women and everyone else. So stay tuned. We're going to the Pacific Division. We're going to talk about Tucson and San Diego, begrudgingly, and also Ontario and Bakersfield having a bit of a comeback from 3-goal deficits at least on the weekend. By God, we got some barn burners to discuss. So hang with us. Listen to some advertisements. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back from on the other side of our sponsors and what they had to say. And once again, we thank Paige and we thank Elaine for coming on to the show. Very nice to have those 2 knowledgeable ladies as a part of not only the Full Press Hockey family in a written form on the website, but also here on the Calder Farmstead to chime in about the Stockton Heat of Calgary and the Canadian division, but also the Central Division at large. Elaine, once again, my goodness, she's got her hands full this season. But we have one more series to cover in full. We'll kind of bookend here with another, series, not as much in depth, but Tucson and San Diego. This was, like I mentioned last episode, one of the series that I wasn't really thrilled. In fact, I was really kind of like, do I have to choose this? Because both of these teams are trending down in the, kind of in the wrong direction. And yeah, I was like, which team wants it less? I picked a split. Sean, you said if Nell starts, San Diego was going to sweep the weekend, but if any other goaltender, Tucson wins. The model picked Tucson, but just barely, 56.4%. It's only a model because Tucson took first game 6-2. Guess who was in net? Lecouvi for the Tucson Roadrunners. San Diego 4-2 in that second game on Sunday. Prosvetov for Tucson in net. So Nell not even seeing any action this weekend.
Yeah, because, the roster moves are basically just made up. They are, I mean, I thought Nell was going to get in after they put him in the other night, and he was, who he is. But that's not what happened. Although the 4-2 game that Prosvetov played in, I don't want to put it completely on his shoulders that they lost, but he definitely played a factor in that game not going Tucson's way. But we'll get to that in a second.
Sure. Well, hey, I know that we've talked about Tucson sleepwalking through long stretches of game. It seems to be par for the course when we're talking about the Roadrunners on the program, but were they awake for a full 60 on Saturday?
Not an entire 60, but it didn't really matter because when you score 5 first period goals, you can sleepwalk through portions of the second and third, which I don't know if that would be an accurate description for what they did, but there was definitely less urgency in their game, when it's 5-1.
Right.
But I will give San Diego a lot of credit for their roster and coaching staff very much not just giving up. Like a lot of times you will see teams when it's, when you're getting hammered like that, they come out for the, latter half of the game and they're really going through the motions. They're just trying to get the clock down, get to the next game because this one's over. The Gulls didn't do that. They clearly fought until the last whistle, and in some cases actually fought to the last whistle. But I think that gives them some credit as to, their mental toughness of not just being like, all right, it's the third period of a game we're getting crushed in. Like, let's just get this over with. They came out and played hard all 3 periods, even if it wasn't necessarily the most effective effort. Their rush defense was bad. Tucson effectively just dominated the first with odd man rushes off of good puck movement and neutral zone turnovers. And they really controlled the pace of this game. They executed really well in transition. They rolled 4 lines well. And that seemed to kind of be what they are trying to do, is be that kind of, like we talked about with Laval and Stockton, that counterattack team in transition, because that's where they absolutely just crushed San Diego on Saturday, was in transition and with execution. Another point too to make here is that Michael Bunting is 100% the straw that stirs the offense for the Roadrunners. Even when the rest of the team is sleepwalking, he has really stepped it up this year and has been the guy for them. And that's a newer role for him, as like in previous seasons, Braden Burke and Lane Peterson have kind of taken on that burden more or less of being the guy. And they're still very good, although they haven't quite looked the same as the guys we've seen from previous seasons, talking about Burke and Patterson. But especially Burke, he has, like, I don't think he's been terrible, but the results definitely have not been there. And he looks, I don't want to say snake bit, but like something maybe not quite right there. I'm not sure what it is yet. I'd have to dive in a little deeper, but he is not performing the way that I'm used to seeing him play. And that's working for the team right now because of Michael Bunting's play, but it's at least mildly concerning to me that he has, I think, 6 points and no goals through the season so far.
And, normally he's a different kind of stir, a crap stir, if you will. He's got the scoring prowess, his numbers show that. And we talked about that in the preseason preview as well. But the fact that he's really stepping up, it's impressive, especially with those big names like you said, like Burke and Peterson on the team. I see here that you had some technical difficulties, more technical difficulties on AHL TV.
I did not have technical difficulties. My internet connection for this was flawless. It is 100%. What in the God's name was going on with this broadcast? Like, I normally don't, as long as it's watchable, it's fine. I'll suffer through it. I've tracked hockey games for, like kids before, for youth hockey in Canada, watching film that looks like it's literally through a potato. So I can usually suffer a pretty good fortune for a broadcast, but I have no idea what this was. Like, it looked like it was being filmed from someone's like cell phone in the stands that was like sitting on the blue line. And then there was like audio that came in only after like 10 minutes into the first period. And it was, I think there were a lot of hot mic moments, but like nothing, terrible got said or anything like that. But it seemed like they were just two guys having a conversation, watching a game, as opposed to like the broadcasters. I don't know if, and like the next game that they had, fine. Looked like their regular broadcast. Everything was good. So I don't have any idea what was on AHL TV for Saturday's game, but it was not good.
Interesting. Yeah, because normally you're talking about, well, not normally, but last episode you talked about, the feed jumping back and forth, which has been a common complaint across the fandom and otherwise, media, anybody that's watching the game on AHL TV. That's kind of been the common complaint. And of course, when you're filming in practice facilities, sometimes the angles aren't the best, but to have a low quality potato that you're recording through, that's a difficulty in and of itself. That's a wildness in and of itself. And speaking of wild, like we mentioned at the top of the show, the rest of the AHL this weekend, my God, it was all over the place, just complete and total madness. Yeah. So with all that in mind, a lot of wide open track meet style hockey. Did Sunday's game live up to that in Tucson?
New, very much new. Everybody, let's be fun and just play fast and loose. That was the AHL this weekend. It was a pretty fast and loose game, more or less, on Saturday. On Sunday, they did not get that memo. Sunday was ugly. But Tucson was making the best of it. Going into the thirds, I don't know that I would call them the clear better team through two periods. They were ugly periods, but still held on to a 2-1 lead. And then Prosvetov just let in a bad one from Carrick in front. And you just failed to freeze a puck that was like in between his legs or in front of him. I couldn't really tell because the camera angle, even though this broadcast was better, it wasn't easy to see. Like, this is filming out of a practice facility. I'm not going to get a multi-camera look, and I understand that. At least it's not like Chicago where the nets are up for some reason, even though no one's in attendance. I don't get that one. But Prosvetov just fails to freeze this puck. Carrick pokes it home through some kind of, genie glitch. And after that, Prosvetov let off another bad one from Josh Mahura on just a low percentage shot off a face-off, staring him down, whites of the eyes, and just lets it in from, 60 feet away. That puck cannot go in if you're Prosvetov. That puts the goals up 3-2. And after that, the goals were going prevent defense, baby. Safe forechecking, grinding battles down low along the walls. They iced the puck I think at least 1 billion times. And I'm not even exaggerating that number. I think in the last 8 minutes of the game, there had to be 10 icings from San Diego. And it wasn't even some play would go on and then they would ice it again. It was win the face-off, float the puck up, and then hope it doesn't go for an icing. That was I swear to God, their strategy for 5 minutes at the end of that game. But they were very much getting pucks deep, play prevent defense, just grind out a win. They did score a fourth goal to put them up 4-2, but even that was off of, a routine, very safe play that just happened to get a good tip for them. But still, it was very much an ugly game, which kind of put a damper on the weekend a little bit for me, even though the weekend was wild and entertaining. And the first game was still fun, but this one was very
Yeah, you kind of expect a little more exciting hockey out of the Pacific Division, but I bet, with as snake bit as both these teams have been, and trying to get momentum and trying to, turn things around, I can imagine why San Diego clamped down, especially after Michael Bunting had those 2 power play goals in a row in the second period. And then, Sam Carrick with those 2 goals. And then, San Diego holding on to that 4-2 victory. Closing thoughts on the Roadrunners and the goals this past weekend, Sean?
It was a very interesting kind of contrast of styles. At least as far as I can tell from watching these games, trying to get a sense of what these teams are what is Gulls hockey or what is Roadrunners hockey? What is their tactic or their, principles that they're trying to use to win? And they're very, very different from what I'm seeing. And I think the goals one has evolved a lot as their roster has basically just been put in a blender. You know, Zegras is gone. Drysdale's probably not coming back either at this point, I don't think, because he good. And you've seen kind of that shift from what was much more fast and loose to now slow it down, grind it out. Like they went from being what seemed like more of a rush chance kind of based offense to much more cycle based. They're looking to win battles in the corner and be physical. And the Roadrunners, I mean, yes, they're capable of playing like that, but they're definitely at their best when they, you know, are pushing the pace. Their wingers are pushing the pace. They're playing with tempo. They're, you know, trading chances back and forth. And there was a fair bit of that in these games, but for the most part, it was very much a contrast of styles. And I found that to be kind of interesting. Also, one last note here. Those teams do not like each other. At the end of both games, like they needed to be separated by refs. And I was surprised by that. Like I'm not obviously native to either area per se, but it didn't seem to me like there would be, you know, that much animosity between the two teams from previous seasons or, you know, even previous play in this division. But no, those teams do not like each other. Like this isn't just, oh, you know, we played you and we're angry, but it'll fade. Like I have the feeling these two teams, when they get together later in the season, are still not going to like each other just as badly.
Yeah. When you start, seeing teams a number of times, and I know San Diego, if they play all their scheduled games, they're going to play the most games in the AHL this season at 44. So you play Tucson a number of those times, and I'm sure Stockton leaving affected that as well. And they probably had to pick up a few games and probably did against Tucson. I need to go back and look, but yeah, familiarity breeds contempt. And so lots of contempt between these two birdie teams in the Roadrunners and the Gulls for sure. But real quick, before we move on to our cream of the crop, we're going to talk about Ontario and Bakersfield. My goodness, what a couple of games that just played off of the two levels of extremes here. I mean, you had this first game and both teams blew a 3-goal lead in each of these games. I will say this. I will say that. I mean, holy cow, that doesn't happen very often. But Ontario was up 6-3 at one point in that first game. Bakersfield comes back and scores 5 goals, 5 unanswered goals to win 8-6. Holy crow. And then the next game, Bakersfield is up 4-1 at one point. Ontario scoring 4 unanswered goals to win. Well, 3 unanswered goals to push it to overtime. They end up winning in the shootout. Oh my gosh. 5-4 victory, shootout win for Ontario. I mean,
Moonshine. This was like, I will say both the Berube and Villalta and Stuart Skinner, I don't really like any of them as goalies in this, but like I have to give them all of the credit in the world because without them, this wild ass finish is not possible. But no. It's almost like if you told me to rank which upset was bigger, definitely Ontario's. Like Bakersfield slowly chipped away at that over the course of a period. Ontario scored 3 goals in 5 minutes? Akil Thomas basically never left the ice for more than 40 seconds, scored a natural hat trick, and then banged one in the shootout, which technically, I guess, won the shootout for them. Shootouts are, hard to really score that way. But regardless, like Akil Thomas absolutely just killed it. Like he carried that team at the end to, the team effort, but like Akil Thomas was clutch as hell in those final moments. And I mean, we've been saying for a while, like this team is too good and has too much talent to be this, have these poor of results, to have this bad of shooting luck. And we're starting to see the cake get baked here from these raw ingredients, and it's fantastic. And
that's a really great analogy. I like that. I've never heard that. We are seeing the cake get baked from these raw ingredients.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I had to comment on that. I like that a lot.
that was, yeah, like that's what we're seeing here is and I still am seeing, good things and impressive things from Quentin Byfield yet. I still haven't seen that moment yet, but I feel like nothing about his performance recently has done to sway me that like he was going to figure it out eventually and start to become the guy. I haven't seen that like absolute elite, like Zegras level magic yet, but we're getting close. Like he's starting to make plays where I'm just like, damn, that's a good hockey play, but nothing quite yet that I point to and be like, that's the number 2 pick. Just, making someone look bad on the way to scoring a goal or something like that. I haven't quite seen that yet, but he is definitely coming along very well. I mean, he has points in his last 6 games, I want to say. Mm-hmm. Byfield is absolutely lighting it up. I love the Devontae Smith-Pelly signing. We didn't really talk about it when it happened because it kind of caught us in a weird moment in this, but now that we have that kind of a second here, that Devontae Smith-Pelly signing I love a lot. I think he is going to be a very good role model as someone who has a Stanley Cup ring and has gone through, the ups and downs and turmoil in his career that he has, to be able to, take guys like Akil Thomas and Quentin Byfield and be that veteran presence for them to see someone like him who's done it all and has faced it all in his career to kind of prepare them as a veteran, I think is a very, very good signing. And I'm actually kind of surprised because as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, why did they do that sooner? But
And I was surprised that he was even available. Like, I'm like, it just available this late in the season even as a depth forward addition to an NHL club or, it was surprising.
It was surprising for me too. The last I remember of him is he was a cap casualty for the Caps. But like his contract, I believe that he wanted it wasn't too much money necessarily. Like he wasn't wildly overpaid, but he was definitely someone who it's like they're paying him too much for what he did for the Capitals for that team, and they chose not to re-sign him. And I don't remember after that. I was surprised to see that he was available, but that also could have been for personal reasons too. Of like, this is a goofy year, and this is what it took to kind of coax him out of that. I have no idea. Wild speculation. But great signing by them. Amazing weekend, even though it was fueled by crazy moves. I'm amazed most of all that we don't have to send any more beer to Ontario for John Wroblewski because he just missed the mark for this game for goalie pool 6-pack challenge. Like I went back and triple checked because I'm like, no, there's no way. They scored 3 goals in 3 minutes. 2 of them were 6-on-5. No, he did just miss the marks on those, but still pulling your goalie earlier pulled them out a win. That is the second, not just goalie pull that we saw with time left, that they came back and won because he was able to get the goalie out well over the average time that you've seen in previous seasons. So like trending up that time, great. And I'm sure Robo would have probably pulled him a lot earlier if they could have gotten the puck out of their end, but that was ultimately kind of what shot them in the foot there at the end. And they got Villalta out with like, I want to say 2:25 left when they were down by 1. And like, it was one of those where he's just like, I'm coming to the bench. I don't care if we get possession in the zone or not. Like, I need to get out of here. But that's the tactic we want to see. And I mean, that Bakersfield game too, the first one where they came all the way back from in a 5-goal third period. Like, I think if Ontario didn't literally turn it back on them the next game and Bakersfield would have held on to that, you would have very much seen a meme from me of, you come at the Kingslayer, you best not miss. But if you're a fan of one of those teams and watch one of those games, I understand one of them was crushing and the other was awesome. But those were the best that it gets in the AHL this season in terms of entertainment value. Like, if you're not a fan of one of those teams, maybe go put that game in just to watch, because it was wild and I love it and I'm here for it.
And honestly, if you're a fan of Bakersfield or Ontario, you got to live the best of both worlds. You got to, well, maybe not the best of both worlds, but you had the crushing defeat and you had the comeback victory all in one weekend. So, hey, full range of emotions. So, real quick, Sean, before we go to break, let me ask you this. Do you feel like the AHL is more readily embracing the goalie pull 6-pack challenges based on, the fact that you pull your goalie, you have a better chance. You pull your goalie earlier, obviously 6-on-5, statistically you have a better chance of scoring a goal, and a lot more coaches, it feels like, at the AHL level, and maybe I have blinders on at the NHL level, but do you feel like the AHL coaches are more readily embracing pulling the goalie earlier than NHL coaches by and large?
I mean, without having to see numbers on it, I would say probably not, because there are still quite a few who are like, gotta wait until there's less than a minute left, or,
Sure.
right at that line. Like, I've seen that in, I want to say Bridgeport's done it this year. So is Hartford. But I also think too, you're seeing, because there are a lot of much more young coaches in the AHL compared to the NHL, who basically, I mean, the NHL, 50% of their recycling plan is just hiring old head coaches. So
Daryl
like
Sutter.
you're seeing a lot of the same mentalities, the same mindsets that, and like hockey tactics in general are very, very slow to evolve. That's why, I'm so excited every time someone does something wild and outlandish, like 6 forwards on the ice that Bakersfield did a little bit ago, or pulling the goalie earlier. And because you're seeing more of those same head coaches at the NHL level just get recycled around, that doesn't happen. Whereas I think you're seeing bigger shifts this year in the AHL, because like John Wroblewski openly talks about they use efficiency analytics in his press conferences. Like, there are stats nerds, behind the scenes there in Ontario and in Los Angeles. And him pulling the goalie earlier is clearly a part of that, because that is something that the analytics community, I want to say discovered, but knows because of math. And I think you're going to see stuff like that from coaches that are more willing to embrace things like that. And they tend to be younger coaches, because they grew up seeing Patrick Waugh do crazy stuff that happened to work out while also hating analytics. But that's a whole nother topic. But to answer your question, I would say it would surprise me if the average goalie pool in the AHL is larger than the one in the NHL. But I definitely think that you're seeing in some places these coaches embrace these tactics more. And I am absolutely here for it at the AHL level. But I still think you will see league-wide, it still be a slow thing, because hockey is the slowest sport to evolve of the major sports in North America.
I mean, Moneyball happened 20 years ago. Isn't that crazy? That's freaking crazy. So, all right. Well, hey, we're going to enter our final ad break. So listen real quick. We got the cream of the crop. Sean's got 3 guys that stood out to him this weekend. I've got 3 guys that stood out to me this weekend. And Sean, of course, that tricky Sean with our Tuesday quiz. He's got another something up his sleeve here. So we'll see how that goes after these messages. We'll be right back. Yeah. Okay. Final break. Thanks for listening. Thanks for putting a little coin in our pocket and making it a little bit more worth what we do here. We do it for the love, but hey, never hurts to make a little money on the side for sure.
Sean, my friend, let me tell you a little something about the madness. Let me tell you a little something. Let me tell you a little something about the cream of the crop. Yeah. Can you feel the madness from the AHL weekend? You can feel it. Feel it in your bones. Yeah. Because Bonesaw is ready. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
whoa.
I just assumed that you have like some kind of gargling solution that you do after the show to keep that up, because that's got to rip your throat to pieces. Like, but anyway, yep.
A lot of hot tea. Go ahead.
I will go first here. For me, Joseph Blandisi, 3 goals, 1 assist, 4 points on the weekend for Laval. He was fantastic. Absolutely joy to watch. And that whole team, like, I love Laval's style of their the way that they play the game, the way that they approach it, that like fast pace, roll 4 lines, everybody skates their butt off every night. I love it. Blandisi has been a star, on the rise over there for a while. Who knows if Montreal ever realizes that, because, well, the Habs. But cream of the crop, first one for me, Blandisi.
All right. And first one for me, not a big surprise since I cover him here in the home market. of Colorado, but Player of the Week honors. 2 games played for TJ Tynan on Tuesday and Wednesday against the Dallas Stars. Centerman for the Colorado Eagles, earning 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points in 2 games. A well-deserved Player of the Week honor for really coming back after spending some time on the Eagles, the Avalanche taxi squad, rather, coming back to the Eagles, reclaiming the C from Greg Patterin, and he's being a leader on and off the ice. TJ Tynan, my first cream of the crop.
Second for me for cream of the crop. Man woke up again today, chose violence. That is Garrett Pilon. If it wasn't for Garrett Pilon in the weekend against Bingo, I think Bingo might have swept that weekend. Like, Garrett Pilon was very much like, not just from a, counting stats, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points over 2 games. You have a 5-point weekend, you're probably going to get cream of the crop, but like, he looked the part too. This wasn't just, showing up or, secondary assists or lucky. Like, Garrett Pilon helped drive that offense for Hershey. And he's been doing it for most of the season so far. Garrett Pilon, second cream of the crop.
My second cream of the crop, not a big surprise here, coming out of the Pacific Division. Akil Thomas. Only 1 assist in the game against Bakersfield on Saturday, but the man had a natural hat trick on Sunday. He channeled his inner Riley Damiani, and having a natural hat trick for Texas recently. Akil Thomas, no empty net goals either. That's super impressive, and yeah, it's just a testament to what, like you said, a lot of raw ingredients coming together to bake that cake in Ontario. So Akil Thomas, my second cream of the crop.
All right, and last for me, I actually didn't realize that Logan Thompson started both games in Henderson this weekend because I wasn't going to give it to him. And then someone pointed out to me that he had played both. And yeah, when you stop 77 of 79 shots, a 975 save percentage for the weekend, 2 Ws, 1 that was a shutout. Logan Thompson, I feel like at some point is going to come back to earth, I guess. Maybe at this point now, I'm not sure. But he's third cream of the crop. I think that's the second straight one for him too, if I'm not mistaken. We'll have to go back and get some of those stats going. But like, he's just been an absolute wall for the Silver Knights this weekend.
Not just this weekend. He better.
The whole season.
Right. Yeah. If he's not careful, he might mess around and win goaltender of the year in the AHL. So, but the last one for me, my third cream of the crop, coming in at the buzzer, the Monday night game tonight, as we record, Rockford and Iowa, Cale Morris coming in and starting this game after Matt Tompkins, rather. Sorry, Mike Tompkins was one of my dad's friends growing up. Matt Tompkins for the Rockford Ice Hogs, letting in 4 goals, 17 saves on 21 shots on Sunday's game. Cale Morris comes in, 38 saves on 39 shots, helping Rockford get the victory. Of course, a lot of scoring punch in this game, 6-1, as we talked about with Elaine earlier. So Cale Morris, you come in under the wire at the horn,
the third and the final cream of the crop. Yeah.
Cale Morris escaping whatever dungeon they locked him in Rockford to finally getting a start. That is good to see. I saw when he was starting, I was like, well, someone found Cale Morris finally.
But guess who is still in that dungeon? Derek Barabo, because who started both games for the Wild? Hunter Jones led in 3 goals on Sunday, 6 goals on Monday. For the love of all that is holy.
Please stop starting Hunter Jones. Like, that poor kid. He's not. Anyway,
this is Jimmy Howard last season bad. Like, this is.
That's rough.
I went there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
Well, hey, time for the quiz. What do you have for me this week, Sean?
So in honor of one of America's great wastes of time, March Madness, we are going to play a quiz called Madness or Sadness, where I am going to give you a name and you have to tell me, is that person a leading scorer on a seed that is still alive as we record this in the March Madness bracket? Or is that someone who is a number one overall pick, or not number one, first rounder NHL draft pick that never graduated from the AHL?
Okay.
So madness or sadness? March Madness, leading scorer for a top seed in the NCAA bracket, or sadness, a player who was drafted in the first round that never graduated from the AHL. So I have 7 names here. Let me double check that. I have 6 names here.
Okay.
Important point. I have 6 names here. You will need 4 in order to pass this quiz. So, Cece, are you ready?
I am as ready as I will ever be.
First name up for you. Connor Bleakley. Madness or sadness?
Oh, I covered that gentleman, and he actually played for the team I used to cover in Idaho there. That is some sadness.
That is correct. 23rd overall pick in 2014 by the Colorado Avalanche. 133 games in the AHL, 109 in the ECHL. You're on the board, Cece. Connor Bleakley. Sadness. All right.
Bleakley. It was very bleak. It was sadness. It was a sign.
Well played,
That
sir.
was just right there. I couldn't help myself.
No, that's fine. That's fine. All right. Next up, Jared Butler. Madness or sadness?
That sounds... I mean, Butler is a college team that oftentimes makes a dent in the postseason tournament, but yeah, that's what's coming to my mind. I'm going to go with my gut. Jared Butler, March Madness.
That is correct. He is the leading scorer for Baylor.
That's funny. Butler for Baylor.
Yep. Butler for Baylor. That is madness. Cece, 2 for 2. All right. Next up, Corey Kispert.
Corey Kispert. Boy, if that doesn't sound like a hockey name, I don't know what does. But look at me go against my gut this time, and I'm going to say March Madness.
Cece is 3 for 3. He is the leading scorer for Gonzaga.
I have not been paying attention to college basketball this year, so I'm, just going with the flow, I suppose.
All right, Cece, you need only one of these remaining 3 in order to stake a claim here and win madness or sadness. Number 4 here, Tyler Biggs.
Tyler Biggs. That is going to be, again, my gut says madness, but I'm kind of, it's weird. It's a weird thing. I'm going to go against my gut and say sadness.
You are a winner, Cece. That is sadness. Tyler Biggs, the 22nd overall pick in 2011 by the Toronto Maple Leafs. 119 AHL games, 136 ECHL games, no NHL games.
Dope.
All right, Cece, by our arbitrary quiz rules, you have 30 seconds. What is on your mind?
Oh, Sean, we talked about this during the pre-show and in between recording and everything. Devontae Pelly-Smith, Akil Thomas, Quentin Byfield, making history. 3 black players on a line in professional hockey hasn't been done since the 1940s, and they did it. The Ontario Reign, they put that line out there this weekend, and I don't think it's just a token gesture either. Like, all 3 of these players are damn good. I mean, we talked about, Devontae Smith Pelly. Did I say Pelly Smith the first time? I feel like I did. Devontae Smith Pelly. There we go. Strike that. Reverse it. Devontae Smith Pelly won a friggin' Stanley Cup with the Washington Capitals, and the Reign bring him in, not mid-season, but in the midst of the season. And they bring in leadership, they bring in skill and talent. And that's exactly what the Reign needed, with a bunch of these, as I can't get over this analogy, a bunch of these raw ingredients in the black and silver bandits, as we've dubbed them. And this, again, it's not just an empty, hollow gesture. These guys are all good. And it's it's a testament to the times that we need to live in, that a line like this is put on the ice, because if the AHL, if the NHL, if all of professional hockey across all realms, not just North America, but Europe as well, and across the world, if they're going to get serious about the whole hockey is everyone thing, then they need to take the fact that the culture needs to change, that these things need to change. And when you make when you find it problematic, as some people have on social media, that this has been made such a deal out of, like a big deal, which it is, then you need to take a look at the world around us, and you need to realize that things like this need to be celebrated. And because of that, that is what my rant is about, is that this is not just a hollow, empty gesture. This is progress. This is important, and this is necessary for the game of hockey and professional sports and us as a society. We live in a society as a whole society, a global society. This is important to not only recognize this, but to celebrate this for the major milestone that it is. That's what I got.
All right. And for the record, hard agree. Like this is an awesome.
Go ahead and add to it for sure.
I mean, you said it really well. This is an awesome thing and should be celebrated. And anyone who's like, oh, this is just token, whatever, like, you can kindly leave our podcast audience. I don't care. Like, hockey needs things like this to continue to grow and thrive. It needs to add. One of the reasons hockey is the slowest, evolving sport is because we just keep bringing in the same people, the same minds, the same backgrounds to end up going to the same places. And that's not how we're going to move this sport forward, just in terms of on-ice tactics or anything like that, but also how we get more people involved in it. I love this game of hockey, and I want to see it grow to people who otherwise may not have gotten the chance to experience it with me. I grew up with skates on my feet before I could walk. I want other people to have that opportunity too. And if that means bringing, more things like this in there, then that's absolutely what we should do.
And I tell you, staying in the Pacific Division, once again, a little addendum there. Manny Viveros, Joel Ward, two guys that are people of color, that's also a huge thing. And the testament to their success should not be based on color. If you're a good coach, if you're a good player, given the opportunity, you should be given the opportunity to succeed. And the fact that you put 3 black players on the same line, and Akil Thomas, again, cream of the crop, shows out and scores a natural hat trick. The proof's in the pudding. Leave it at that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that is it for us for this week, or for, this episode, not this week. That's it for the show. If you guys are enjoying the show, please make sure you subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, please rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening to it from, if that podcatcher allows you to do such a thing. Or if you're watching us from YouTube, like the video and comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media, on Twitter at Calder Farmstead and at the Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found on our link tree, which is scrolling down below. But if you're in the audio version, you can't see that, obviously. It's linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Cece.
As Sean said, my name is Cece Hockley. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can find our program, other great hockey podcasts, and sports and sports entertainment programs by and large at www.fullpresscoverage.com. Full Press Coverage, Full Press Hockey is under that umbrella, and that's who I write for. Yeah, I represent Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL, and my personal Twitter account at CCHawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. And you can find me tweeting about music that I find, enjoyable at the moment, or pretty much my whole life, or mainly hockey, of course. So give me a follow. If it's interesting to me, it's not going to be bad for you. We'll put it that way. So check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at www.fullpresshockey.com. My latest article, I break down the Colorado Avalanche's trade for former Buffalo Sabres prospect, net mining prospect, Jonas Johansson, and see, does he really add a lot to the goaltending room there in Colorado in general? So with that said, Sean.
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on Instagram. That is ever improving at Sean O'Brien _81. If you're interested in, where you can find all of our, stats that we talk about, PDO and the point shares model and that kind of thing, that's all on my Tableau page. You can get to that from bit.ly/datadumpandchase, all lowercase, all one word. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction, DYSFUNCTION. They can make music for you too. Cece, take us home.
That is all for episode number 22 of the Calder Farmstead. For Sean O'Brien, my name is CC Hockley. We thank you all for tuning in once again. And as always, keep your stick on the ice.